Welcome back, everybody. It's Mandy from Hope Designs, and I'm going to do a quick swipe, I hope, using the bloom recipe. This canvas, as you can see, was the result of a bad painting day. So, because it's been sitting around and it's already prepped, I thought, why not use some pigments? I've got a bunch mixed up, and some of them are starting to really need to be used. So I'm going to use a black pillow. So if you haven't done the Shelley Art course, your pillow is your house paint, interior house paint that you put down, which is used to coat your canvas, and it's also used to help move your paint and design around. So this is Color Place by Walmart, Black Onyx Satin. Semi-gloss will also work. Just when I was exploring black pillows, a lot of people told me that the semi-gloss is very oily, and so based on the recommendations of others, I went with the satin. So I did mix or pour this out of the can just a little bit ago, and I mixed in a couple of drops of 91% alcohol to help pop any bubbles, and I stirred it up and just let it sit for a little bit. The alcohol is going to evaporate. If you were not to stir it up, obviously that would be a problem. But it's going to evaporate, so it's probably not going to be a big deal. Now, I'm using a gallery wrapped canvas, which is why I put so much pillow on here, because I need to make sure that this will go to the edges. So, the tall edges are kind of challenging sometimes, so there is, I'm just going to spread this out a little bit. Normally you don't really have to do that very much, but it helps me to make sure the edges are covered, because once the design is out there and it's being tilted, it's a little bit more difficult to rescue your edges then, whereas if you just kind of get them covered now. So if you haven't taken Shelley's class, there is a 15% off promo code in the description box below. Highly recommend it. I usually tell people you can learn the technique from other artists, you can watch what they do and kind of deduce it, so I'm not saying that you can't learn it, but the ongoing support and the tips and tricks that Shelley and her team provide are worth taking. So I definitely am a fan. It has been a wonderful experience for me. Plus, honestly, like a lot of us have gone before you and paid a lot of money to find products that work in our country, that work for our particular chemistry and our weather locations. You know, some people deal with hotter, colder, whatever. So, you know, leverage the support of other people who have taken the class and learn from them, but by all means it's worth it to be included. And then you have access to the alumni Facebook group, where a lot of really sweet people share their experiences, and they share what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And you know, there's people that reach out to me all the time on YouTube that tell me that they can't get products in certain places, and I empathize for them, but because I don't live where they are, I really don't have a lot of advice, other than there's probably a student in that group who has figured that out, and that's why the resource of having the group at your disposal is really valuable. So you might as well take the course, save yourself some money if you're thinking about it. And I will say, if you're new to acrylic pouring, it is a semi-advanced technique. So many others would say you probably shouldn't start with that, which I generally concur. However, there are some people who have had no success with traditional acrylic pouring, and for some reason the Shelley Art class clicks for them. So, and I'm sorry to bore you while I do this, but a lot of people ask these questions, so I would much rather kind of show you sometimes what it takes to get your edges covered. Sorry about my head, I'm probably in the way. It actually makes more sense to do this, huh? So yeah, this is a 10 by 20, and I probably have way too much paint on the canvas because it feels really thick, because this paint is, darker paint is always a little thicker and heavier, because for it to be tinted, it has to have very minimal white in it. So it's always going to have kind of a thicker base, which means it takes longer to dry sometimes, which can work in your favor if you get crazing and your paints crack and separate. Some of that happens because you have too much paint on the canvas, but some of it happens because your pillow dries faster. So I have a lot of pillow still on the canvas for tilting, so I don't think we're going to have any trouble, but let me rinse my hands real quickly. Sorry. And we're going to be using a lot of primary elements today. And of course, when do we not use a lot of primary elements? Of course, but I want to use quite a bit of the Puttin on the Glitz, and I already have quite a bit of it mixed up. So I'm sorry in advance because my fingers are going to look gross because I have black house paint on them, but my husband and I are supposed to work out in a minute, so I don't want to waste too much time because I don't want to keep him waiting when he gets off work. So I'm going to lay down just a little bit of some Phthalo blue, Phthalo turquoise. These are a little thick, so it's not as big of a deal that your paints all be the same for a swipe as it is for a bloom, but I do want them to move and not get stuck, so I just thinned it down with a little bit of varnish. Jo Sonja's varnish is very thick also, so sometimes I use a little polyacrylic just because it's a little bit more watery, but I prefer to use Jo Sonja's gloss varnish as a general rule, just because I like the way it responds a little bit better, but they both work. So if you're in a place where you can't get Jo Sonja's, don't be afraid to use polyacrylic. So I ideally want it to be thick, but running off the stick, that's still a little bit thick, but I'm probably going to make it work. And I'm going to do a swipe. So my cell activator, when you hear the term cell activator, and I'm going to do a video just for this because I can't tell you how many times I see this question floating around. When we talk about a cell activator, we're talking about what works as a cell activator with Shelley's recipe, which is usually a ratio of paint to Australian Floetrol or some doctored version of American Floetrol. Some people have no problems with American Floetrol just as it is. But understand that the cell activator is also responding to what's underneath it. So it will work with certain paints and be cell reactive if you glide your paints across. But one of the reasons why it works so well is because of the gloss varnish and everything you have in your paints underneath it as well. So some people just want to throw it in a flip cup, and it's not necessarily going to perform the same way. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, Amsterdam is a good cell reactive paint, and Australian Floetrol is also very cell reactive. I'm going to throw a little Phthalo turquoise. So that was a Phthalo blue from Amsterdam. This is Phthalo turquoise from Golden. I keep having to thicken these up. This is why I kind of wanted to do a swipe, because I wanted to throw in a lot of random colors, because I have a lot that has been mixed up for a minute. So that's part of the reason why they're so cell reactive. Some people have great results trying them with regular acrylic paint. But if you're hoping to achieve like the bloom cells with a swipe, you might, because you're going to glide it across the paint. Even if you do a bloom recipe with, not a bloom recipe, yeah, like a bloom style blow over your paint, and you're not using a house paint base, you might still have a good result if you glide the cell activator across the paint. but generally speaking, it's not going to quite yield the same result. So when people ask the question, I feel like I kind of want to explain, like, if this is your end goal, it may not perform exactly the same. So that's a long explanation, but you get what I mean. So that was two kind of tube paints, and this is Malachite. This is from the Puttin on the Glitz Primary Elements mix. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful color. So this is the first primary element set that is semi-opaque. And let me tell you, when I say that they're beautiful, they are absolutely beautiful. Like, there's no way to describe how pretty. Now, I tend to use lots of blues, purples, teals, even some pinks on occasion. I want to do these colors today in primarily some of those colors, but I also want to add in the Blissful Bordeaux, which is kind of a wine color, and the Apple Rose into the mix. So this one is Laguna Azul. This is probably one of my favorite colors from the mix. And I actually want to put that one on closer to last. I'm trying to use up some pigments I've had mixed up for a while too. So I have some Boysenberry mixed up here. It has been mixed up for a minute. And it needs to be thinned out. So I would like to just thin it out and use it. Because, like I said, I don't want to lose some of these because they've just been literally drying up in these containers. They last a long time. But sometimes I mix paint like really ambitiously, thinking I'm going to have all these vacation days and all this time to paint, and then vacation days turn into errand days and that kind of stuff. And like today I ran an errand, and you know, by the time you get back, you unload groceries and all that, your painting day is gone. So instead of wasting time and mixing up paint, I thought, let's use what we have. I already have some canvases that have unfortunately had somewhat of a sad ending. So there's our Boysenberry, which is probably forever going to be one of my favorite Colourarte pigment colors. Now I am losing some beautiful stuff off the sides here, so I really need to stop wasting too much time. So now this guy, you can throw him away. And I'm going to add in some Bolivian blue, because same thing, mixed up, it's been waiting. I'm just going to add some of these to the edges. Now for the cell activator, I want to use kind of a darker color, because all I really want the cell activator to do is to create the effects with the colors we're using. I don't really want it to detract from the colors, so I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I'm going to try to use Payne's Gray by Golden. This Bolivian blue is also a Colourarte pigment. This is not part of the new set. It's sort of like if Payne's Gray met teal. Like, it's a deep teal, sort of like Payne's Gray is like a grayish blue. That may not have been a great representation, but this is Wine and Roses. This is an all-time fave of mine. So this is not part of the newer mix. So this one is somewhat transparent, not transparent, but translucent. So I'm going to kind of add this one in for some contrast, but it's going to pick up the colors around it. So that's kind of why I'm putting it down in the middle. And it's just beautiful. Now we're going to have Blissful Bordeaux in there in a minute. This rich Cobalt is also a beautiful, beautiful color. In fact, rich Cobalt is sort of a similar color to Bellagio. However, Bellagio is a semi-opaque, And this one is a little bit more translucent. So I'm gonna sprinkle this one in for some depth of color. And it's kind of thick also. And then let's see. I'm hoping when I release this video that I will have already done the contest. So, but I actually may go ahead and do the contest winner at the end of this video. So stay tuned. In fact, I'll just make sure that I do that. I'll combine them. Okay. Blissful Bordeaux. Now we're going to add a little bit of this other one, which is called Crushed Velvet. This is part of the new set. It's like a beautiful violet color. So I'm always a fan of all things purple. And I am going to add some gold in here for some contrast. And I've had this gold mixed up for a minute, so I can't tell if it's prism pour Egyptian coin or if it's gold and bright iridescent gold. They seem very similar to me. I really love them both. So it's one of those. And this is Bellagio. So this is the Puttin on the Glitz. So on the very top of this, we're going to do this one, Azul, Laguna Azul, and I probably have way too much color on here, but I don't care. I think I just mixed up my lid. No, I didn't. And Blissful Bordeaux and Apple Rose, and then we're going to add in the gold. So I'm going to kind of loop them in on purpose. So if you were to compare this with Wine and Roses, this one has a little bit less red. It's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, there's so much paint down here. I hate for it to go to waste. I need to stop wasting time. Okay. Okay, I also need to stop doing that because some of it is probably pillow paint. All right. Yes, some of it was definitely pillow paint. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? All right. And Apple Rose is going to be our last candidate for today. Beautiful. And after that, we're just going to incorporate some gold. I actually kind of want to use quite a bit of this color because it's one of the lighter ones other than the gold, and I think it will add quite a bit of pop of color. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and use it all. And I'm going to swipe, if you've ever seen my very first black swipe, I'm going to do that. I'm going to swipe kind of different on purpose. And so this is the gold I have, and it's a little thick. So I'm going to thin it down a little bit. I thought it was cell activator and I used it under a black cell activator thinking that that's what it was, and I was like, what happened? Why didn't that work? Well, that's why. That is why. Okay, I need to hurry up because my husband's about to get off work. Okay. Now my preference would be that the gold is sort of laced throughout. That would be my preference. Ooh, I'm just making a mess. My hope is that it won't take over. I think I used a lot of it, but it's, like I said, been mixed up for a really long time. So, wish me luck. Let's see. So I like to swipe by putting the cell activator on the card first, and then swiping over. Whoa. Uh-oh. Gonna pause you. So you may be wondering why I squealed and had to pause you. So I dropped my brand newly mixed cell activator on the floor and it went flying across the room. I got paint on the bar stools, on the floor. It was awesome. So I paused you so I could pick it up. So I decided I would speed this part up a little bit. The cell activator I'm using is Payne's Gray, heavy body from Golden. And I'm using a 3-to-1 ratio, so 3 parts Australian Floetrol to 1 part paint. I personally recommend mixing 1 part of the Floetrol with your paint, mixing it in really well, and then adding the rest of your Floetrol. It just makes it a lot easier to mix your paint. So that's my suggestion. Pardon my head there. So it is now Christmas Eve as I am doing the voiceover for this part. So Merry Christmas from our family to yours. And I said earlier in the video that I was going to go ahead and pick a contest winner. I did use a random comment picker to select a winner for our drawing, and the winner is Lisa Ball. Congratulations, Lisa. If you will email me, our email is always in the description box below, and let me know what address I can send the item to and which of the 3 items you would like. And so congratulations, and I'm super grateful for everyone who has faithfully supported our channel and continues to watch us and share your feedback and your support with us. Super appreciative of that, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful Christmas. So here we are just swiping, kind of intentionally swiping weird. I kind of like it to have some dimension, and not necessarily always do I like the swipes to be kind of straight up and down. I like them both ways, but the only problem with doing it this way is when you slide around like that, you eventually reach a point where you have paint that you can't get to very easily. So you'll see that that happens shortly. But I love the way the Payne's Gray did with these colors because it mostly just accentuated with the cells. It wasn't a big contrast. You know, ideally you want, if you have dark color, you want a bright or a lighter cell activator and vice versa. But with a kind of a darker painting like this, I think a Payne's Gray works because it sort of blends in the color family with what we have. And the gold is standing out here and there, but it's not taking over, which is what we wanted, or what I wanted. So I can tell you that obviously you saw in the beginning I put a ton of pillow paint on this, and so I was super nervous about how it was going to dry. The one thing I like about using a black cell activator, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning, is the black pillow paint, it seems to dry more slowly because it's probably a heavier base. Typically, to mix dark colors, you have to have a heavier base because they have less white in them. It's easier to tint. So for some reason, it can make the paint kind of greasy, but this one, it seems to kind of provide a little bit of a delayed drying, which helps prevent cracking and all that stuff when it doesn't dry faster than your paint on the top. But I have been going in every morning and looking at the painting, like, please dry nicely, please dry nicely. This is the biggest gallery wrapped painting I've ever done. So I think up until now, I've done a couple of 6-inch ones, a 10-inch one, but this is the biggest one I've ever done. So 10 by 20. It's a nice size for a swipe. So far it's drying great. It seems like it's almost dry. I don't quite trust the middle, so I'm going to probably let it dry several more days to a week before I resin it. I know everybody's probably like, a week? You probably should wait several weeks. So, but I only have so much room, so I need it off the table. But so far it's drying beautifully. Of course, most paint dries a little darker. But the colors are gorgeous. I think that once I put resin on it, it will be even more amazing. So I was pretty tickled about it, especially considering I had that whole episode in the middle where I threw the paint across the room. That was a major bummer. But it is kind of challenging to tilt this big old painting because it's up on push pins, and one of the push pins fell out while I was tilting it, which was so frustrating. And I don't do a great job staying in frame, so sorry. But you can see as we're tilting how beautiful the colors are together. They're just so pretty, so very pretty. I was kind of looking at it when I was tilting it like, wow, these colors are gorgeous. I'm telling you, Leslie outdoes herself with the color art. The primary elements are amazing. And this new set it's amazing like all of the other ones, but it's so interesting how that semi-opaque quality just takes them to another level. It really does. I think they will be so versatile now that we can layer in those Puttin on the Glitz pigments. And that's honestly, it's been so much fun to play around with them. And they just turned out so beautiful on here. So I hope that this has been a fun painting for you. I know this is a long video, and I'm sorry about that. However, I am super happy for our contest winner. And I know I probably didn't do a great job in announcing that in the beginning of the video, so it might be kind of a surprise to throw in the random winner in there. But I didn't want to delay much longer. I did do a little snapshot video of selecting the winner, but the recording is honestly not great, so I just decided to tell you. But I really appreciate everyone's continued support. I think this is probably my favorite painting so far. And I can't wait to see what it looks like resined. I'm obviously not going to wait to release the video until then, but if you follow us on social media, you'll see that. So again, if you haven't taken Shelley's course, the 15% off promo code is in the description box below. Colourarte, I'm a huge fan. There's a 20% off promo code in the description box below. If you have not tried these pigments, they're amazing. Here's a close-up for you. Look at that. Just look at the color. Woohoo! I love using pigments. I love the depth of color. But, oh man, I just love the way this turned out. And if you're new to blooms, keep trying. They take some time. Thank you, everyone.